All right, hey everybody, this is Rosh, and you are watching Helix Basics. This is a YouTube tutorial series I'm putting together to help new and experienced users program their Line 6 Helix Floor. So a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I build and program guitar rigs out here in the LA area as well as online. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, A Perfect Circle, Bush, Kylie Minogue, Maroon 5, and more. And I wanted to give back to the Helix community and show some tips and tricks on how to program their Line 6 Helix. If you've been watching this YouTube channel, you've definitely seen me post a lot of fractal audio content. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me is that I also program all the other modelers out there on the market, including the Quad Cortex, the Kemper, all the fractal products, and in this case, the Line 6 Helix. So there's a lot of crossover content. There's a lot of best practices, no matter what modeler you're using, that's going to apply to any product that you're using, whether live, on tour, in the studio, on stage, etc. And so I wanted to get back to the community and show some tips and tricks on what I do. So this video is going to be dealing with dual cabinets. So we've been watching some dual cabinets videos if you've been watching some of the previous content. And this time it's going to be using dual cabinets in the context of dialing a high gain sound. So again, dual cabinets are definitely the key, in my opinion, of getting the best guitar tone out of the Helix. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're here in the factory presets. Let's navigate to a user set list. So we're going to press the preset button, going to rotate, going to use the joystick and then rotate down here, hit left, and then go to one of our user set lists. And of course, I'm going to go to 01B because it's a blank preset that I already have, and I'm going to navigate there. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, go navigate to the center of the preset, and let's put in amp. And in this case, do not use the amp plus cab, but we're just going to use a regular amp because we're going to use a different cabinet block. So let's go down to the guitar. Now, if you're going to get into the higher gain amps, you're going to want to definitely scroll down further than this. So you can, of course, use the down motion, or you can rotate the knob and then pick one of these. So there's a lot of high gain amps in here that are really good. One of the easiest ones, in my opinion, to dial in is the Placator Dirty, and this is basically the Friedman BE100, and then there's lots of options in the second and third pages to turn on some of these switches that would be present in the real amp. So let's add that. And then now what we want to do, of course, is we want to also add a cabinet. Now, keep in mind that we're not using the amp plus cab block. We're actually using an amplifier, and then we're going to use a separate cabinet. So obviously without a cabinet, this amp would sound really terrible. So what we're going to do, of course, is add a cabinet here. And again, navigating to an empty slot, navigating down to the cabinet. And in this case, instead of using the single, we're going to use the dual. And of course, we have our options to pick whatever cabinet we want. So with the higher gain amps, usually something like using V30s are usually pretty good. So let's navigate to the Uber V30. This is the Bogner V30 cabinet. So again, most of the tone shaping is always going to come from the cabinet block. So really picking the right cabinet for your guitar tone as well as the proper microphone is going to be the real key of dialing in this sound. So I'm going to navigate to the Uber V30, and then let's press the button in. And now what you're going to want to notice is that you have 4 pages here using the page left and right keys. Now, the third page is going to be for the second guitar cabinet. So again, the cool thing is with most modelers is you can pair 2 different cabinets to shape your guitar tone. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use the same guitar cabinet, but use 2 different microphones. So I'm going to rotate until I get to the Uber V30 right there. And then this time, what you can do is the first cabinet has a certain microphone. And if we page right twice, we have a second microphone for the second guitar cabinet. So the first thing I'm going to do is navigate all the way to the 4th page. I'm going to bring the level down on the second cabinet for the time being. And I'm going to navigate back to the first page because all I want to hear is the tone from the first cabinet. So let's pair again with a dynamic microphone and a ribbon microphone. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a dynamic microphone. 57, it seems to be always like a very ubiquitous, great choice for when you're using a dynamic microphone. And again, it's going to give you a lot of that mid-range punch. It's going to give you a lot of the detail. It's going to help you cut through the mix. And then the ribbon mic is going to be there to kind of round out the tone. So next thing we're going to do is, of course, use some standard low and high cuts. And again, if you've been watching some of the other tutorials I have on this YouTube channel, the low cut and the high cut is really one of the keys of getting a great guitar tone, because you don't want too much information above a certain frequency, and you don't want too much information below a certain frequency. It just either becomes a muddy mess or becomes too, too shrill in the top end and everything like that. So I recommend most users use somewhere between 80 for the low cut, 80 to 100. And in this case, 8,000 or somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000. So obviously, if you need it to be darker, you bring the high cut down. If you need it to be brighter, you bring the high cut up. And then the low cut is going to be how much of that like low end frequency you need. Now, keep in mind that the placator, which is the Friedman, definitely has a lot of bass in it. So that can be informative choices of where you want the low cut. Next thing that we want to do, of course, is we want to position the microphone at the cap edge. I recommend this is a very good starting point for a lot of users because this is where most of the time you're going to be miking a real guitar cabinet. And what you can do is you can bring it closer to the center for a brighter tone, or if you are at the cap edge, you can bring it further away from the center to get a darker tone. So let's see what we're working with here. All right, pretty good right out of the box, and we haven't even worked on any of these knobs yet. For me, I'm looking for a high gain sound that's going to be, something that I can play, a lot of the high gain kind of stuff. I'm not really a metal player or anything like that, so there are amps that are going to be better suited for a metal tone. But this is going to be something for more modern hard rock. If you're in a cover band and you're playing stuff like Paramore or something like that, you may want that. If you're playing any of that early 2000s hard rock, this is the type of high gain sound that I'm definitely going for. So right here, we don't need to do much to the amp to get the sounds right. I'm probably just going to bring the channel volume up just a hair. And again, the Friedmans have a lot of bass, so, we don't need to go past 5. And I still want the tone to kind of cut through a little bit. We'll add some mids, add a little bit of drive to get some extra gain. And now, one thing to think about for this particular amp is there's also some of these other switches right here. So you can see the HBE and the fat switch and the C45 switch. These are going to add, these are basically present on the real amp, and they give you a lot more tonal shaping options if you need it. The HBE, of course, adding way more gain. So if we turn that on, for example, if we turn that off, and then the fat switch, of course, is just kind of like, bumping up or scooping out that low mid frequency. So without the fat switch, with the fat switch. So you can hear that kind of girth and thickness in the low end. Right? I like that on. And then the C45 is just another tonal shaping tool. To me, that's kind of a little more of the mid-range, so it gets a little more aggressive with the C45 switch. So I think that's a pretty good starting point right there. And again, we're going to be right here at the cap edge. If you need it to be brighter, by all means, feel free to move it towards the center. And again, I'm going to leave that right there at the center because what I'm going to use this second cabinet for is to kind of thicken up the tone and round out, smooth out the top end, add a little bit more low end. The first microphone is going to be definitely more for the cutting kind of frequency. So at this point, let's dial in the second microphone. I'm going to switch the microphone over to a ribbon. Let's go with the Royer 121. Now, for an amp like this, the 121 may be just too dark and too much low end. So the M160 can also be another tonal option. So let's see kind of what we're working with here. Again, I'm going to move the position to the cap edge, and I'm going to bring the low cut up to 80 and bring the high cut down to 8,000. So right here, what we're going to do is go into the last page, and we're going to start blending in that ribbon mic. So you can hear that, it's bringing in a lot of fullness and richness. If I, take away the ribbon mic, it's going to thin out that tone a little bit. And again, I'm playing the bridge pickup of a Les Paul, so if I bring the ribbon mic back in to about maybe negative 4 dB-ish, somewhere around there. And again, one of the things is that I always believe that the tonal shaping is going to be definitely coming from the microphone. So if I feel like I need a little bit more low end, of course, I can move the position of the microphone, the ribbon microphone, to move a little further away from the center to get a little bit darker. So as opposed to the center, very aggressive. Now if I move past the cap edge, which is around like 2.4, and go to about here, yeah, I think that sounds pretty good right there. And again, this would be maybe a little on the dark side for me. It would work really well for lead tone, maybe. But if I was playing more of a rhythm sound, I'd probably want that ribbon mic to move a little closer to the center. Let's maybe find the happy sweet spot between those two positions. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. Now at this point, you've definitely heard some hiss coming from, the gain right here. So obviously that can drive some people crazy. At the very beginning right here, we don't have a gate on. So of course we want to turn the gate on, and now that hiss is going to go away. We can watch the, this meter right here. As I play, it's going to move from the right or from the left to the right. And of course we can do that. But again, I don't like to gate too much because it's going to, throw off the guitar tone, but just enough to get rid of that hiss. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. And again, we didn't really need to do much in the amp block. These are mostly the original settings, give or take a little bit more drive and a little bit more bass and some of the channel volume rounding out that tone. Obviously, if you need more gain, you can turn the drive up, or you can even turn on the HBE. As opposed to it off. Now, again, for me, I'm not thinking of doing this as a metal kind of guitar tone. This is going to be definitely more of like a hard rock kind of guitar tone. I think this would work really well if you're playing maybe, I don't know, some 90s hard rock, early 2000s hard rock, those kinds of things. And again, it's going to have a lot of detail to cut through the mix because you have that 57 really rounding that out. And again, if you find that maybe the ribbon's a little, the Royer 121's a little too dark, we can of course try the M160 ribbon. As opposed, so you can hear the difference. This is a lot darker. And then the M160 has just a little bit more of that mid-range. And again, it's just a slightly different flavor. Both can be definitely useful. It just depends on the context you're doing it in. So I'll leave it at that M160 just for, a different variety. And of course, let's add a reverb here. And we'll add the reverb. We'll add a mono dynamic call. Let's dial down this decay to about 1 second, and let's bring the mix down to about 20. So let's start here. Sounds great. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good high gain hard rock kind of tone. Again, not going for the metal thing. If you definitely need a metal tone, there's definitely more amps and more cabinets that are going to fit that, suit that. But again, I'm thinking more for somewhere past like that, crunchy rock guitar rhythm tone that we dialed in a previous video, and something that's just going to have a lot more gain, something a little bit more modern, a little bit more aggressive, without leaving the, pop rock kind of paradigm. So that's going to be a good place to wrap it up here for this video. Again, really simple to dial in, a very beefy, very nice tone using the dual cabinets. Didn't need to do much, and you didn't need to do much tweaking on the amp. It's mostly always done in the cabinet block. So if you guys need any help programming your Helix or any other modeler, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. You guys can contact me directly and we can set up a session. Outside of that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. I'm falling with you.
Instead